Once a year, the sun meets Jupiter in the sky, and this is what some astrologers like to call the luckiest day of the year. But luck isn't always what it is that we think it is, or at least what it's going to be. Sometimes our great luck is the limits that are placed on us or the disappointments. And that is the signature of this year's luckiest day of the year. It comes hand in hand with a new moon, and it's happening in the sign of Cancer. This is where Jupiter is especially strong, loves to be here, is able to bring forward its most optimistic, spiritual, open-hearted best. But it is that very approach that ultimately is what we need to see within ourselves. And it's not necessarily about the outcome. It is very possible with energy like this that we just might overestimate our abilities, go way too far, go overboard in some way. And that can be part of some sense of a container holding us back. But even that holding back is a part of the great twist of luck that could find us. Whatever takes place, even if it comes packaged as disappointment, that new moon suggests that there is a bold and empowering new beginning. And that in turn puts us on a pathway towards being able to manifest some really hopeful visions. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of June 22nd, 2025. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. Synchronicity University is celebrating its 10-year birthday. That's how long we have been making astrology accessible to the masses. You've got a week left to choose your tuition rate, but also join the celebration. Lots of bonuses going on over at synchronicityuniversity.com. I want to set the stage for this week by first talking about what has been taking place and what will be taking place, especially in the weeks ahead. It was last week that Jupiter squared Saturn and Neptune. This was significant because it spoke to that sense of challenge between what feels like should be better, what feels like could bring hope, but then having practicalities or some sense of disappointment in the mix. It is this week that the sun is going to follow the steps of Jupiter just before they meet in the sky, and is also going to connect in tension with Saturn and then with Neptune. We are feeling this energy right out of the gate over the course of Sunday and Monday. And the sun is considered a personal planet, which means that whereas with Jupiter, it felt really big, it felt consequential, it felt like there were factors outside of our control that were going way overboard. But with the sun, it becomes personal. It becomes about us. It becomes about a deeper understanding. Now, there are some things that we might willingly let go, others that we might feel like we have resistance. We don't want to let them go. We want to, in some way, fight and continue to have things go our way. But that would really be missing the point. But yes, as we start the week, there is this air there, maybe for some sadness, maybe for some feeling like there are these large structures that you can't even put your finger on, but you know that in some way they might be holding you back. But the energy does start to shift, in particular, once we get to Tuesday, because on Tuesday is when the sun will officially meet Jupiter in the sky. That marks the luckiest day of the year. But like I said, this year, the great luck is what it is that doesn't work out. The thing that feels the most disappointing, the thing that feels the most challenging is exactly the thing that is needed so that big, bold blessings can certainly open up to us. And we start to glimpse them very soon. Now, the sun is considered a personal planet, but the moon is that much more personal. It's that much more ruling over how we actually feel. And it will be on Wednesday that we will have a new moon in the sky that is hand in hand with the sun as usual. That's what a new moon is, when the moon meets the sun in the sky once every 28 and a half days or so. But Jupiter's there. And that makes everything that Jupiter's been going through, everything that the sun's been going through, that much more an emotional experience. This new moon will be squaring, will be speaking in tension with Saturn and Neptune as well. And so that sense of limitation, we might take it very personally, but it might not be personal at all. A lot of times, what Saturn represents is patience. With Saturn squares, you can't always necessarily get what you want, but delays are not necessarily denials. And there can be a sense of structural frustrations at play. But again, it's more about showing yourself what's worth the effort, what's worth the work, not necessarily about reaping the rewards right away. And Neptune squares, well, that can be disillusionment, but sometimes we have to see where it is that we've been kidding ourselves in order to start a fresh page that feels much more rooted in what it is that actually we want, what it is we actually could do, what it is that is actually right for us. And I would also say with these energies, if something doesn't feel right, because we want things for all kinds of reasons, what we want, why we want it, how we go about getting it. It really does come down to these variety of motivations. But what is it that is actually right for us? What is it that resonates with us? Well, that is going to be part of a disconnect that is stronger for some than others. But the great thing about this new moon is it is speaking in harmony with Mars. And it's a type of conversation that astrologers call a sextile. And that is a conversation of empowerment. It's a conversation of making oneself aware of one's power and then taking deliberate steps because you want things to get better, and then feeling as if life is responding to those steps with positive outcomes. All through my teen years and much of my 20s, I thought I wanted to be Madonna. Like that was the goal, that was the image, that was the vision. But I didn't have the awareness at the time to really be honest with myself that anytime I tried to do those things that I thought Madonna would do, it just didn't resonate. It didn't feel right. And yet I pursued it. And I remember my Saturn return so clearly because it was brutal. Lots of things happening in my chart. And the really big realization was the understanding that the universe already has a Madonna. It doesn't need another Madonna. Maybe it could use a Nadiya Shah. And I had no idea who that was. And that was when I descended into a dark night of the soul. And on the other side, I emerged as a full-time astrologer. Basically, that's the condensed version of how it is and why it is I have such a love in astrology, because it was astrology that showed me that whatever I was going through right now, it was going to be okay. And whatever I was going through right now, it would someday make sense to me, that there was a higher wisdom to it. And when I think about how it's so natural for me to talk astrology, it's so natural for me to just talk, it feels very much like this is the path that I was always supposed to be on, or at least is actually for me, but I just needed time to find it. We often have a lot more time than we realize. And this idea of opportunity only coming once, I don't believe that for a second. I think that the universe is abundant. It is plentiful. And what is for you, it is incredible how it will keep finding you again and again. And nothing can get in the way of ultimately what it is that's for you, especially when it is that you're guided by a sense of what is actually for you. And what that means is not guided by what you feel you have to prove, not guided by what you think you should be, who you think you should be, even if it doesn't feel right, pursuing a dream that was never yours to begin with. But it is that thing that brings peace, and not necessarily free of challenge. There might still be work. There might still be things that need to be done that you have to learn or overcome, but there's a different vibration when it is that it's the thing that resonates with your soul. And I think that's part of the challenge with a week like this. Whereas last week, it might have felt a lot about the bigger events, the karmic events at play. This week, it becomes a lot more personal. It becomes a lot more about what it is that you more personally understand yourself to be. And we're each going through this. And for some, we might be witnessing people around us having nothing less than an identity crisis. And that's hard to see, and it's harder to experience. And yet, it might just be what's necessary. A part of getting honest with ourselves, even when it's hard, will ultimately give way to understanding what it is we can actually do, or at least at the very least, to start asking ourselves better questions. And part of those better questions come about when we observe, whether it is observing our emotions or observing our life. Now, I know I tell this story background of me in a kind of condensed, cheeky kind of way, but I do want to say when I say dark night of the soul, it really was a descent into the underworld. It was a Nana's journey. It was brutal. And my friends, they say that at the time it was like they could see me. It's like I was there, but I wasn't. It's like something was kind of missing or gone for a while. And it was incredibly painful. But life has shown me, not only back then, but also more recently, again, for those of you who've been watching me for a while, you might remember last year in the summer, it was an incredibly difficult time for me. But life has shown me that sometimes those difficult times are needed. It's like that's where we really see what we're made of. And that's when we encounter some of those defining things that are going to make us the best of who it is that we could be. And on the other side of it, we really come to understand ourselves in a whole new way. And this is a profoundly personal journey, and often it's painful. This is the universe, this is the world that we have co-created together, that we as human beings learn through challenge, we learn through pain, that even in the midst of challenge, even in the midst of pain, we might still find peace when it is that we're honoring the journey of the soul. And that is going to be part of the invitation for us now. It is Mars that is moving through the sign of Virgo. And it's about looking at the details, looking at what actually is. And I know I say this whenever we talk about Virgo, I say Virgo energy is the proof is in the pudding energy. That's how I understand it, because it is about looking at what has actually manifested, what you are actually doing. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm so great at this and I'm this and I want that, right? Having fantastical dreams. Dreams are there for a reason. It's a wonderful thing. And they help us to manifest incredible things. But sometimes those dreams are there because they distract us, because perhaps what it is that's actually for us, well, we might not have cultivated the courage to actually trust that, to follow that. We might not have had the examples of people who follow that in order to trust that. The soul knows when we're off track, but sometimes that's the point. Sometimes we need to be off track to really appreciate and often do the work that bringing us back into alignment, back on the path, sometimes requires. And this is a week where if in any way the soul is off track, it's going to know it. It's going to feel it. And that voice within is going to feel especially strong and notable, especially now. Now, having said all of this, it might just be a profound realization that finds us, but it comes on the other side of being able to acknowledge where the disappointment is there, where we've bought into an illusion that was never ours to begin with. And what's amazing is it's Mercury that saves the day. So Mercury is thought, communication. He represents the god who was the messenger of the gods, one of the only gods who was able to move freely between the worlds. And it is our mind that helps us to move between worlds ourselves. It is our mind that we can direct to focus inward, to understand what's really going on, to sit with the soul, to go beyond thought, to focus on breath, and on the other side, find a sense of profound soul. It is Mercury that helps us to understand how to do it, that gives us the techniques, that gives us the insights that we might need to make connections on a mind level that just might reach deeper into levels of heart. Under the light of the new moon, Mercury will speak in harmony with Uranus. And then at the end of the week, is going to change signs, moving into the sign of Leo, and very quickly move to speak in supreme harmony with both Saturn and Neptune. And so it's not going to take us long to recognize where hope is. It really will not take us long to recognize how whatever has felt difficult or disappointing at the start of the week really is a part of our higher blessings. It's part of a higher wisdom at play. Trust those things that feel disillusioning. Sometimes we need disillusionment in order to find ourselves. And what helps us find ourselves more than anything is to understand that the mind is a tool, but this is a journey of the soul. This lifetime is a journey of the soul. And utilizing the mind by deciding how you're going to focus it, well, it helps you to use your mind that much more to your advantage. It might feel like the hardest thing to do as we start the week. There's lots of feels in the air, lots of emotions for a lot of us. And yet, as we get to the end of the week, this sense of self-knowledge starts to feel restored. Now, the energy of Leo, I love the energy of Leo. My dad, you might have seen him on my channel before, and I talk about him all the time. I love him so much. As a little girl, of course, little girls look up to their dads, think they're Superman. Oh yes, that's my dad. And my dad, super charismatic everywhere he went. To this day, he knows everybody in the grocery stores. Everybody loves him wherever he goes. He knows how to talk to people and he knows how to be charming. And he is a Leo sun conjunct Pluto. Yes, he is of that generation. And that is a whole lot of really concentrated Leo energy at play. But the best of Leo energy is loving. The best of Leo energy is heart-centered, heart-guided. The best of Leo energy is able to understand and with Mercury see perception from the heart. But another higher understanding of this beautiful Leo energy is an understanding that there is something within you that is worthy of shining and being seen. Now, with Mercury doing all the wonderful things that Mercury is doing as we get to the end of the week, that means that how that light comes forward is through the mind. How it comes forward is through communication. How that part of you that is special, that unique light within that only you can shine, or even just that part of you that knows that there's more to do in this lifetime, but more importantly, you are worthy of having a lot more to look forward to and a lot more to do in this lifetime. That very part of you is going to feel that much more awake and alive and inspired. And it's that very part of us that's going to pull us out of what might feel like some really heavy emotion. And on the other side of it, renew a sense of enthusiasm by making a plan, by envisioning, and by having a type of hope that isn't about putting our dreams in the hands of other people, but rather by being able to own an understanding of whom it is that we desire to be, whom it is that we actually are. Because when we're in that place, the doing comes that much more naturally. The outcomes, well, they flow. Even through hard work, that hard work makes you who you are. With Mercury trine Saturn, there are blessings on offer. By having the right conversation at the right time, the right information finding you, and feeling a click within that brings with it practical inspiration. Neptune is there. That brings with it imaginative ideas that open up incredible possibilities for us as part of our own unique journeys. Now, collectively as well, Leo is the energy of the kings, of the rulers, of the leaders of countries and cultures and societies. And I am encouraged by the fact that at least we get some stabilizing energy that's rooted in some practical, spiritual, or compassionate sense as we get to the very end of the week. And my hope is that that in some way is utilized by world leaders right now. There's a lot of rhetoric, I know. It can feel very disillusioning, I know. And it can feel like, as I've said, yelling into a mirror, screaming into a mirror. People yelling the same thing at each other, just doing the same thing back and forth, and not allowing grace. When you don't allow grace to others, you don't allow it to yourselves. And it might be overly optimistic of me to say that my hope is that at least with this mercurial energy, at least with Saturn and Neptune together, trining Mercury, that we're able to get in touch with a more authentic and grounded sense of leadership and a genuine sense of the possible. How is it that situations can actually be healed? How is it that we can actually begin to move forward? Well, my hope is, as out there as that hope might be, at least at the very end of this week, we're offered some sense, some glimpse of a beginning now. But I would be remiss and it wouldn't be fair if I didn't say that I know there are things that are happening in the world that feel really scary. And a lot of that kicked into high gear with the energies I spoke about last week. And I touched on world powers and tensions, especially with Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter square Neptune. And some of that might feel heightened for us with the sun now in the mix, and especially under the light of that new moon, with the energy of Cancer representing patriotism, sometimes hyper patriotism, especially with these squares, especially with Jupiter in the mix. That can feel disillusioning, yes, more personally, but we might see how that plays out on the world stage with people sort of perpetuating their own visions of what patriotism looks like, devoid of compassion, devoid of a sense of realization, of self knowledge. Well, that is leadership that ends up going in all kinds of awry directions that end up being ultimately self destructive. Whatever we do to others, we do to ourselves. And this is true individually, but it's also true collectively as well, the shared decisions we make. But the great thing is that the individual can be part of affecting the collective. Now, how you would do that? Do you want to see a world that is more heart-centered? I know that I do. I really do. But Mercury just might bring healthy detachment, enough so that we can see what we might actually do, and see that through using our voice, through using our mind, through using more personal ways of speaking our truth. And there's all kinds of ways to speak that. Sometimes it's in our own environment, in our meditation space, in the energetic space. Sometimes it is with actually how we treat people more personally as we move through our lives. These are markers of what's really going on within. And with the healthy detachment that Mercury just might bring, well, my hope is that more of us decide to be heart-centered. More of us choose to have those difficult conversations that just might allow ourselves to move forward individually and collectively. Here's another big picture perspective. It is going to be in July that fully 3 planets will go retrograde: Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune. We already have Pluto retrograde, and that means by the time we get to the end of July, 4 planets will be retrograde. Whenever a planet is changing directions, that's when it is at the height of his power, which means that as we get to the end of the week, well, we start noticing certain energies, especially magnified: Neptunian energy, Saturnian energy, and Mercurial energy to a certain extent as well. It will be at the very beginning of next week that Mercury will go into shadow. I'll talk about it more when we get there, but it's important to understand that whatever pathways we are walking right now, as much as there might be a sense of some forward momentum, which is amazing, there's still a feeling that maybe it's not as forward as we might like, especially at the very beginning of the week with the sun so dominant in its squares with Saturn and Neptune. But it is going to be those retrogrades that I actually think are going to be a saving grace. Whenever it is that a planet is standing still in the sky, whenever it is stationary, it is closer to the Earth than it might otherwise be. But it's that move towards retrograde that invites its energies to become more personal, to become a lot more about a personal, individual understanding of how it is that we are using those energies well, if at all. Now, ordinarily, seeing that energy coming up in July, I would say this is the last full week of June. Use it well. All systems go, all systems forward. But I can't say that because the luckiest day of the year is going to be one that we don't realize is luck until it is that we get further down the road. So what is further down the road? That's going to be August 9th, when we are going to have a very powerful full moon in the sign of Aquarius. It's going to set up this larger, supremely harmonious configuration called a near Star of David. There's a kite formation happening in the sky, another major configuration, and it's the grand sextile as well. Powerful energies are at play. And that's when I think a lot of what feels so disappointing now is going to make a whole lot more sense. And interestingly, I actually did speak about that energy with Yahoo recently, Yahoo News, and I'll link to that article below. Thank you so much to them for featuring my ideas, and it includes horoscopes for each sign that you'll find there as well. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Well, I'm going to say I love how life is a mystery, right? Life is one of those things that we don't always realize the great gift that we are in the midst of in the present because we judge it as difficult, as hard, as painful. And rightfully so. These are real emotions that people feel. And it's okay to acknowledge and to honor the fact that these are feelings. But at the same time, there is so much power in genuine compassion, or at least to see beyond the hurt, where we are willing to be heart-centered, where we are just cultivating just the mediocre of some willingness to see with eyes of love, to speak love, to understand how that creates stability within us, but also how it is that we ourselves can be a force of practical inspiration to the people around us. I think that's part of the invitation as we get to the end of the week. Yes, it's the luckiest day of the year, and it is going to be luck, but it's not going to look like it just yet. It's going to look disappointing and downright challenging. But that's part of the mystery, right? How it is that life sets us up for the biggest gains, greater than anything we just might be able to imagine now or imagine for ourselves. Well, it truly is unfolding in our lives now. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff speaks to you in your sign, log on to the Superstar Space at thefutureismagical.com or NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month. With choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar Space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links below. Synchronicity University is 10 years old. We are celebrating the 10-year birthday of Synchronicity University, and I just might get emotional here. I did get kind of emotional on an Instagram live that I did. And so we're having these bonuses, especially for the programs that are happening now that I've taught before, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for supporting the school, for the love that you show for astrology. You know, I started the school 10 years ago this weekend, and it began as a series of basically lessons on my YouTube channel. And so I looked at like the sun through the signs, the moon through the signs, and what it means if you have a moon in Aries. I really talked about the nodes a lot. I delved into that understanding with a whole series of videos as well. And that was all part of Synchronicity University at the time. And I'll tell you, people still find me through those videos, especially the ones having to do with the nodes. To this day, I have people who will add me on Instagram and say, hey, I found you because I watched your North Node video, and so on. So these videos that are 10 years old, they still have this sense of momentum. And I'm so grateful for those of you who find me however you might find me. When I launched the school, it was Uranus trine Jupiter. It's one of my favorite aspects. And actually, interestingly, it was Jupiter in Leo. It was Uranus in Aries. And now here we are, and we're having these extraordinary transits at play. And we're setting the stage for this, well, the weeks ahead, when we're going to have in August Saturn exactly trine Uranus, Neptune exactly trine Uranus. So the fact that we're celebrating 10 years of Synchronicity University on the lead up to that, I think is a wonderful omen. It was in May 2016 that I started doing my own classes. And what had happened was somebody had asked me to do a class on Zoom. I'd never thought about it before. And I did that single class and I saw that it filled up, it sold out. I saw the love that was there for what it is I had to share. And from there, I launched in May 2016 my own series of classes. As soon as the pandemic hit, that was when I decided to expand the school, to make astrology available to the masses. And it's really a love of astrology because I'm really of the belief that anybody can do this. I believe, if there's anything I believe, it is very passionately that this is a skill. Anybody can learn this. And when you learn this, it provides you with one of many tools that are available where you get in touch with soul, you get in touch with spirit, you get in touch with whatever it is that is the divine within you more consciously. You cultivate that individual relationship that you have to higher power. And that is, I believe, your right to do. And I do think that astrology has shown me that it is one tool that allows that to come together. And so the school being something that took off so quickly, and with the pandemic, I decided to do choose your tuition rate. That was when we had speaker series, right? The first speaker series took place as soon as the pandemic started as well. And to me, this was kind of a revelation. This really was when the school became what it is now, where you get to actually sit in rooms, online spaces, of course, but you get to actually sit in those spaces with some of the most celebrated astrologers of our time. And I've had big dog astrologers trust me enough to come to the school, to teach at the school. And I'm so grateful for their trust. But also, it was so important to me to showcase up and coming astrologers. I wanted to be that person to give people their first break, or one of their first breaks, rather. And I learned this from an incredible astrologer who did that for me. I'm trying not to get emotional here, so I might be taking some pauses. Donna Van Toen, the late great Donna Van Toen, she gave me my first big breaks, and she inspires me to continue to do that for others. You supporting the school, you being a student at the school, it helps her legacy continue. Sometimes people send me messages and they say things like, you're so gifted, you have something special. And that always kind of makes me a little bit nervous. It gets my back up, as they say, because I am just like anybody else. I really, really believe that. And I want astrology to be something that isn't about only the gifted know, only the special know. No, you have a right to know it. Whoever you are, whatever your starting point, you have a right to a relationship with higher power. And that's what this is really about for me when I look at it more from a spiritual perspective. There's a lot of stop and go here. I got to get through this. So let me just say thank you. I'm filled with gratitude, filled with emotion. You know, I heard so many years ago, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what can be done in 10 years. And the fact that the school has grown into something that is respected, that is acknowledged, that the most renowned astrologers in the world know about. I mean, I know that I remember at a recent astrology conference in 2022, you know, the membership voted for best whatever, right? Different categories. And I was voted in and I got an award for best social media content creator. That meant so much to me. But I remember at the time they had best school and we saw the top 5 of, you know, people just choosing whoever they wanted. It wasn't like you had a limited amount of choices. You could write whatever you wanted to write. And Synchronicity University was part of that top 5. Everybody at that conference, of the hundreds of people there, everybody knew Synchronicity University. And that really is because of you. Most people overestimate what can be done in a year. They underestimate what can be done in 10 years. This September, it'll be 19 years as a full-time astrologer. But this weekend, it is 10 years of Synchronicity University. Thank you for making it happen. Synchronicity University is proud to present incredible programs coming up this July. And as we start this week, you've got a limited time left, days left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class to learn from these incredible astrologers. I'm going to start with my own program, Glitz, Glam, Astrology, timing beauty and celebrating style, and what this is all about. As an astrologer who does consultations, I'm often asked, I want to do this because I think people see I really enjoy glam, right? I love glam so much. And so people will ask me, when should I try a new wardrobe? When should I try a different hair color? And more, right? They ask about particular cosmetic procedures and things. And this class is going to show you so many of those techniques. So we're going to go through everything from understanding you. That's where it starts. It starts with you, understanding what style is to you by knowing your Venus sign more deeply, understanding your appearance and how you feel about it with the ascendant. And then we're going to borrow some techniques from medical astrology by going through an understanding of what types of procedures belong or go best when. And that has to do with the transiting moon and the aspects that the transiting moon is making. And then we're going to look at transits to the natal chart. And in particular, that's when knowing Venus, knowing your ascendant, knowing how to access the energy so that you have outcomes that you like. Well, that is part of what I will show you towards the last two classes as well. So this is a 5-week journey. But what I really want is to give you the tools so that you can decide how it is that you're going to celebrate style. And I really believe that in this lifetime, if we are fortunate and if we have privileges in this life, we get to choose who we're going to be. And that is inside, certainly, but that is outside as well. And that's part of the celebration of glam for me. I think I learned it from my mom, actually, because all my life I remember watching my mom and putting on her makeup, as many little girls remember their moms doing. So I'm so glad now you are going to learn those techniques. You'll be able to implement them yourself. You'll be able to say, okay, I want to go have a laser hair removal today. Where's the moon? Well, the moon is in Taurus. That's really not good for laser hair removal, but a moon in Gemini is really good for that kind of stuff, but you want to avoid doing anything related to the shoulders or the arms. That's not where you want the treatment to happen. Like, that's what I mean. That's what we're going to go through one by one so that you understand yourself, what beauty is for you, what style is for you, how you want to magnify what you like about yourself, and also to time it right so you have results that you love as well. And so you've got about a week left as this week begins to choose your tuition rate, as always, just $5 a class. But also know that if you're watching this at the very beginning of the week, because this weekend we are celebrating 10 years of Synchronicity University, when you buy any of the July programs, you'll be able to choose one of my previous programs as an add-on for free. And that's only this weekend. And so head on over to synchronicityuniversity.com. Sign up now. Links below. Synchronicity University is proud to present reality TV superstar Mark McGowan. He is so brilliant, and he is a medium, a celebrated medium at that. And boy, is he ever wise, is he ever loving, as you might have seen in my recent interview with him. Well, it is Mark that's back at Synchronicity University, this time with a 5-week course, discovering your intuition, understanding your psychic style, how to magnify it, understanding your mediumship style, how to magnify it, and so much more. This is a 5-week journey that you're going to go on with the one and only Mark McGowan. Now, this is the only place in the world that Mark will teach at that low $5 a class level. So it's a rare opportunity to learn from somebody who has been celebrated, who's been on reality TV, who's known as a medium. Well, how is it that you might want to tap into your intuition? How is it that you might want to bring forward and magnify your own ability to connect with loved ones, to bring forward a sense of understanding of what's really going on, or which ways the energies are going, and so much more. Mark is going to guide you through 5 weeks on that journey. Throughout this week, the final full week of Choose Your Tuition Rate, Mark McGowan for as low as just $5 a class. You can learn a lot more about his course and sign up now at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links below. Synchronicity University is proud to present an incredible lineup, brand new, never before seen at Synchronicity University astrologers at synchronicityuniversity.com as part of the July 2025 speaker series. And I am going to start with Gisel Guerrero. Now, Gisel, I spoke to her recently. She's all about Black Moon Lilith, especially in Scorpio, and how that helps her to understand her energy that much more deeply. And so come and join her class because she is going to shine light on understanding this deeply transformative energy in your chart. When I spoke to her, she gave me some more things to contemplate with Black Moon Lilith, a symbol that I love so much. Annabelle Quintero, she is somebody who has gone through the initiation process of the Guerrero tradition that is rooted in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And she brings that indigenous wisdom to her understanding of the sky. And she's going to help us to understand the sacred moon phase, especially how you might understand that in your own chart. Stacey Murphy is all about home astrology. Her interview should be publishing very soon. I loved talking to her. She knows so much, and she's so much about utilizing techniques based on the ways in which the astrology chart is telling you, is pointing you towards, to use your home to manifest a life that you love in every area of life and so much more. And so she's got lots of personal antidotes, but she's going to give you really practical techniques of how you might understand your IC, your moon sign, how you might decorate your home so that you can align with greater prosperity, success, love, and whatever it is that you might desire to bring forward in your life. Jenny Seek is somebody that I've interacted with for years online, and she is about alchemical psychology. And she also, you'll see her interview this week. I love talking to her because there's this whole history behind alchemy and when it was that it became more of an energetic practice and how that shows up in terms of consulting with others, consulting with clients, but also as part of our own unique journeys as well. She's going to explore that with us. Now, Ehsan is going to be unable to join us because he does live in one of the regions that is going through instability right now, is experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of sadness. And so he has had to step back from teaching. And I was really looking forward to having somebody teach Persian astrology. I thought it would be fascinating, but my hope is that in the future that will come together. And this week we will announce somebody to sort of take that slot. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, I am just sending Ehsan some love because he is a very gentle soul. He's a brilliant astrologer. I met him in 2016, and I really am wishing him and the people that he loves well. And I do that. I wish that for everybody on the planet, like whoever you are, wherever you are, however you identify, I just really would love, I would love more peace for all of us, right? And so that is my intention, and that's what I'm going to visualize for Ehsan and everybody out there in the world and nearby as well. And so somebody else will step in, but in the meantime, you can still choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class for this last full week only at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. I'm in Mexico City. I don't know if you can hear the background. There were sirens earlier. Look, we're right in the heart of a very big city. It is Mexico City and Tokyo that are considered the biggest cities in the world. That's how massive it is. But I love it here. And so I'm really happy to be here. There's so much life. There's so much vitality. What a beautiful place to be back to. And I have been coming to Mexico for a very long time. Really happy to be here for this period and throughout the month of July, hopefully. And yeah, there's helicopters, there's sirens, there's rain right now, but it's part of the fun and the creative energy. And so if you are in Mexico City, reach out. I would love to meet for a hug. If you want an in-person consultation, we can do that as well. But I just love meeting friends and fans on the road also. And thank you for watching. So stay tuned right now for short horoscopes. Truly grateful for you. Thank you. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Once a year, the sun meets Jupiter in the sky, and this is what some astrologers like to call the luckiest day of the year. But luck isn't always what it is that we think it is, or at least what it's going to be. Sometimes our great luck is the limits that are placed on us or the disappointments. And that is the signature of this year's luckiest day of the year. It comes hand in hand with a new moon, and it's happening in the sign of Cancer. This is where Jupiter is especially strong, loves to be here, is able to bring forward its most optimistic, spiritual, open-hearted best. But it is that very approach that ultimately is what we need to see within ourselves. And it's not necessarily about the outcome. It is very possible with energy like this that we just might overestimate our abilities, go way too far, go overboard in some way. And that can be part of some sense of a container holding us back. But even that holding back is a part of the great twist of luck that could find us. Whatever takes place, even if it comes packaged as disappointment, that new moon suggests that there is a bold and empowering new beginning. And that in turn puts us on a pathway towards being able to manifest some really hopeful visions. Now, how the luckiest day of the year and the new moon energy speaks to you in your sign depends on your sun, moon, and rising signs. You want to take all three into consideration, synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And there are lots more horoscopes available right now on my YouTube channel, Nadiya_Shah, and on the Superstar space at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, home, the past, your living situation, and your family of origin. Now, I think a lot of Aries, there's going to be changes on the home front, especially if you've been looking to buy, sell, move, or attract a new roommate. The best laid plans, the thing that you thought was so sure, just might not be. And if it is that you are actually moving under this light, well, it may be the case that there's a larger sense of an adjustment than you realize at first, but that really is okay. Ultimately, this is about aligning you with a greater feeling and a greater sense of home, and that is part of the larger trend of the year ahead. Taurus, siblings, cousins, neighbors, overpromising, in some cases way overpromising, is possible now. And these are promises that maybe might not be able to be kept. So allow grace and be mindful of what you might be promising others, especially with these people. For all of that, though, the best negotiations, well, they just might not come through. And you really want to be careful of contracts right now. The written word might be seen in ways that is not accurate. And so pace yourself and be yourself. You know, I like to say that, but also trust what it is that you understand, even if it is that it needs to be clarified later. Gemini, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem. So the larger one-year trend, of course, is greater prosperity than you've known before. But first, you might have to let go of certain opportunities, as might be the case now. Being overpromised on an opportunity to earn money is possible, or if you do get an opportunity, it just might not be what you thought it was. But for all that, you do also want to be mindful of spending. It's almost like what you spend money on, it ends up not being satisfying or the right thing. You'll have lots of positive energy once we get past August. But for now, pace yourself, be yourself. You know, I like to say that. And strive instead to direct this energy towards healthy self-love. You might not feel connected to it, but asking yourself questions might help you feel that much more grounded and that much more secure in what it is you demonstrate to yourself now. Cancer, identity, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. Well, in some cases, it might feel as if who you really are is not understood by someone else, where you feel that it actually matters. But it really isn't about anybody else. It's about you being okay with exactly who it is that you are, even if that definition is changing for you now. Whatever's nearest and dearest to your heart that you feel helps you to be truly you, well, that's what's in flux. That's what's uncertain, but that really is okay. The new moon does promise empowerment, and that's really the point. Understanding that you have the power to move your life in directions that feel a lot more true to you. Leo, closing karmic ties, ending karmic chapters, and knowing what it is that has served its purpose so that ultimately you can move forward towards all the things that you have yet to do in this lifetime, because you absolutely do have a lot more to do in this lifetime. And where you might have been expecting karmic blessings, they might not show up the way that you thought they would. They might not be satisfying, or it might instead be about karmic closures that feel kind of bittersweet or uncertain in some way. And it really is okay to feel whatever it is that you feel. Make sure you're taking the best of care of yourself at this time. You are setting the stage to take better advantage of next month's new moon in your sign and August full moon in your opposite sign. Very quickly, new chapters will appear. Virgo, friendships, group alliances, a friend or someone that you're connected to, perhaps through a professional group setting. Well, there might be disappointments there. There might be a sense that you had hoped one of them would open up greater opportunity to you, but it doesn't feel like that's happening in one way or another. So just pace yourself as you navigate this time. Be careful about over promising or believing promises from one of these people. Now, with the best of intention, they might not be able to be kept. And yet it is a powerful time for you to nurture your own dreams and wishes for what you hope for in a larger sense for your life. Libra, career, bosses, life purpose, some career opportunity that you thought was a sure thing. Well, it just might not be, or it might be very different than you expected it to. Now, bosses in particular, or people in positions of authority, they can feel challenging at a time like this. They can feel as if they are placing unnecessary restrictions or they're bringing about disappointment. So just pace yourself as you navigate this time. But know that new opportunities, well, just take them with a grain of salt. There are going to be big, bold, beautiful opportunities, especially in the months ahead. But I think that this time is really about showing you what you actually want and maybe what it is that you don't. Scorpio, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. If you're involved in any of these things, well, it looks like there's a lot of hope and anticipation in these matters. And overall, there is a trend of blessings and opportunity there that's going to be with you for another year. But at least right now, well, there might be some disappointments. It might feel like your best efforts kind of wash away or there's misunderstandings of some kind. You'll be able to understand what you can actually do to empower yourself. But in the midst of it, well, it might feel challenging, nothing you can't overcome. And in the process, understand what you're really going for in a sense of how you understand and connect to a larger world around you. Sagittarius, profound truth, change, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. Some opportunity that you thought would be there, some loan or grant or benefits that you thought were a sure thing. Well, now there might be some question as to whether or not it actually is. A financial settlement might feel like it doesn't come together as you had hoped. But for all that, whatever it feels like isn't working out, it is creating space for greater wealth to find you in the fullness of time. Now, more personally, this might be a time when you're questioning a therapist or someone who might be there that you hope might help facilitate meaningful change in your life. The questions themselves are valuable, and it's up to you to decide whether or not their methods are what it is you actually need so that you can move towards the positive change you're hoping for. Capricorn, partnership of all kinds, including business, including love, and whether it is something of no big consequence, like maybe you have plans and they just don't come together right now, and that really is okay, or whether it's larger than that, facing some past deep disappointment, or it is with somebody you're with right now where it just feels as if it isn't working. Yeah, this might be a time that feels disillusioning in love, but it's also about giving you a fresh perspective as to what meaningful partnership is for you. And that's the first step towards experiencing more opportunities to have more of those more rewarding relationships. Aquarius, clients, customers, coworkers, and immediate supervisors. These people might be filled with mixed messages, but also don't hold people to promises too much and be careful about overpromising these people as well. But for all that, this part of the sky also has to do with your overall sense of well-being and your health. And this is an energy that says, look at where it is that you could actually be feeling a lot better. What changes might you want to make so that you can instead start aligning habits with longevity? A few small changes. First, by acknowledging what isn't working, well, the overall sense of health protection and the rewards will be there. Pisces, romance, flirtation, love, and living a life that you love. And so, while ordinarily this would be getting your flirt on, there's some hesitance here. There's some uncertainty here in doing that, or just even embracing things that normally are fun for you to do. They might end up feeling unsatisfying in some way. And a lot of this energy really comes down to seeing yourself differently and opening up on a heart level, acknowledging the barriers that might be there in your heart towards living a life that feels more fulfilling or moving towards love that feels more joyful as well. You need to first acknowledge what hasn't worked so that you can move towards more of what it is that your heart desires. Now, if you're involved in creative projects, well, it might feel like it's not coming together as you like, or it might fall through, but that's part of welcoming in better opportunities in the near future. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.